Jeep is a brand that makes the impossible possible. In a world of bland SUVs, it's among the few legitimate sellers of big, sturdy, all-terrain 4x4s. Jeep is one of the few brands that accomplishes this with a rich history to support it. For 80 years, it has represented travel, robustness, and above all, freedom, a status built model by model since World War II. In the United States, the brand has a loyal fan base devoted to its values, but also a community of detractors who spend their day making edits to mock. No matter, Jeep leaves no one indifferent. When you have a character inspired by your cars in cars, it means you are someone in the automotive industry. And for that matter, Jeep is a reference all over the world, but beneath its shell and its tough guy image hides a complicated situation. On one hand, we have a brand with a strong heritage, which has all the ingredients for success in its hands. A unique identity of its kind, memorable models, and a crazy fan club. However, it belongs to those at-risk companies with a challenging history and multiple ownership changes. Selling over 1 million cars last year, the brand, now part of Stellantis, trails just behind Fiat and Peugeot in volume. But it is indeed the one that generates the most revenue in the group, far ahead of the others. The problem is that for the past 2 years, its sales have dropped by almost 20%. A disaster for Stellantis, who needs Jeep to go from number 3 worldwide to number 1. We live in a world where certain ideas linked to the brand, like masculinity or outdoor activities, occasionally face criticism. A small number of activists have fought to ban large cars and barbecues, which might suggest the public no longer wants these products. This hypothesis falls short as other brands are gaining ground globally by selling SUVs. Jeep must undoubtedly take action to stay competitive. In this video, we will analyze the strengths and weaknesses of Jeep, the brand of freedom that still has to go to war. Imagine you have precisely 49 days to create from nothing. A car that will alter a war's course and become an international icon of adventure and liberty. It's a bold challenge, we concur. Designing a car usually takes years, but 49 days is barely the life cycle of a fly. However, that's precisely what occurred right before the United States joined the war in 1941. The American government issued a tender for a light reconnaissance vehicle with a specification so strict that it has entered into legend. The requirements demanded a vehicle that could operate on any terrain while meeting specific weight, engine, and budget criteria. And to go from idea to reality in an unprecedented time frame, delivering a prototype in just 49 days. Nobody leaves until we work this out. Of nearly 135 companies approached, only 2 managed to meet this challenge. The American Bantam car company presented Karl Probst's version on one side. A designer, known for his quick execution, needed only 3 days to draft his proposal plans. With his small team of 15, they delivered the prototype right on time, just 30 minutes before the deadline. The second company to achieve the impossible was Willys Overland Motors. In brief, 2 manufacturers you may not have heard of before. The American Army, doubtful about the small company's capacity to maintain the required production speed, chose to enlist a major player in the industry. Ford was already a supplier to the Army and had more than enough production capacity and the required experience. This resulted in an unprecedented collaboration between the 3 companies to refine the plans and commence mass production in the automotive industry. To meet the maximum weight requirement, they had to outright shorten the bolts and decided not to paint the vehicle. In the end, the cheapest Willys model was chosen and Ford was tasked with producing the most. It's thanks to this collaboration that the Jeep was born. And, as a general would later say, Jeep was a universal idea that no one invented, created, or developed. The origin of the name Jeep is controversial. But the most popular theory is that it comes from the abbreviation of the letters G and P in English. The initials of general purpose, a term that defines vehicles capable of accomplishing any type of mission. The Jeep made a name for itself during World War II and contributed to the Allies' victory. The tank's mobility enabled logistical support, troop transport, and communication on the battlefield. You could even take off its tires to put them on rails and pull broken down train wagons. The Jeep could go anywhere, and it only took 4 or 5 soldiers to lift it out if it got stuck. After World War II, returning soldiers had positive memories of their reliable all-terrain vehicles from Europe. And many of them wanted to buy a Jeep once they returned to normal life. Thanks to this, as soon as the conflict ended, it became a symbol of freedom, elevated to the status of an icon. With its robustness and versatility, it embodies the possibility of escape, discovery, and adventure where only the bravest dare to go. In a few words, driving a Jeep was the entry ticket to a less ordinary life full of adventures. This adventure, it had a face. A face that hasn't always been on all Jeep models but has endured and become a highly recognizable element of the brand today. 2 round headlights that surround a grille composed of 7 openings, not 1 more. Why 7? Legend has it that the 7 openings represent the 7 continents on which Jeeps are capable of operating, but once again, nothing official. We are surely closer to popular legend than to truth, but it's true that it's more marketable than the other. Explanation that revolves around the dark story of a legal battle for industrial property, from the first disputed drawing between Ford and Willys. Jeep designs have always shared the same features beyond the front, expressing both practicality and robustness. The B-core silhouette features minimal overhangs for a highly optimized attack angle, perfect for off-road performance. Simple horizontal lines, no frills, and 90-degree angles give the model a resistant and solid look. The well-marked wheel arches and relatively flat body surfaces are there to remind us that a Jeep can go anywhere, in all weather and under all conditions. The use of black plastics in bulk enhances the solidity impression, facilitating cleaning after mud baths. Moreover, Jeep takes pride in concealing within the plastics of its vehicles Easter eggs, small surprises that reflect the brand's history and adventurous spirit. Adventure is a word that sticks to Jeep's identity, and for good reason. In the early 60s, the Willys Motor Company, under the direction of Henry Kaiser, introduced new models that would definitely win over Jeep enthusiasts. Across the United States, the Brake Wagoneer and Pickup Gladiator feature exterior designs more appealing than any previous Jeep. They combined all-wheel drive and an automatic gearbox with a more powerful engine, which made their driving much more accessible. In 1965, Jeep created the luxury sport utility vehicle market with the Super Wagoneer, the first in history. By the end of the decade, Jeep's success had spread to over 150 countries. However, its growth made it too large to remain a medium-sized company. In 1970, American Motors bought Jeep from Kaiser for $70 million and increased production from 175 to 700 Jeeps per day in 10 years. Its popularity and success Jeep owes to the economic prosperity of the time and the advent of the consumer society. The rise of modern appliances freed Americans from many boring household chores and offered them hours of free time. The extra time allowed Americans to seek exciting and unique adventures. A Jeep was the comfortable mode of transportation that allowed a family to discover new places. Along beaches, snow deserts, or mountainous trails. It offered a way to escape from everyday life, to go anywhere and do almost anything. American Motors understood this well, giving its new models rugged names like Commando, Scrambler, and Wrangler. In 1976, Jeep celebrated the United States bicentennial by introducing the 7th generation model with a memorable advertisement. If a Jeep can't get you there, maybe you should think twice before going. The XJ range models from the 1980s marked a new era. The new Wagoneers and Cherokees were more compact than previous models. And drivers could engage four-wheel drive without having to stop to lock the axle. Previously, the shift on the fly system was groundbreaking for its era. Despite tough competition from Ford Bronco, Chevrolet Blazer, Suzuki Samurai, and Land Rover, the new XJs dominated the market. The Cherokee was voted Four-Wheeler of the Year 4 times by 3 magazines. In 1985, 75% of four-wheelers sold in America were Cherokees. The XJ series was a success, but American Motors faced difficulties and was acquired by Chrysler in 1987. Yet everything had started off well. In 1988, the Wrangler Sahara arrived with, for the first time, a desert-inspired aesthetic. The soft top and khaki painted wheels added to its character. The 1988 Cherokee and Wagoneer Limited are sold in 2 series with a 1-gallon 6-cylinder engine. A crime against humanity today, which reinforces Jeep's reputation for performance and reliability. Chrysler has reinforced its brand by preserving its heritage while adapting to new market demands over the years. This has allowed it to remain more competitive despite increasingly fierce competition and to rally its fan club around it. In early 2000, the fully redesigned Grand Cherokee arrived, sharing only 127 parts with its predecessor. It's an almost total overhaul to redefine the standards of the 4x4, luxury that surpasses even European sedans in design and quality at the time. Jeep's most capable sport utility vehicle, honored as Four-Wheeler of the Year 4 times by Peterson's Four-Wheeled Off-Road magazine. However, from 2000 onward, Jeep's sales significantly dropped as it hit its glass ceiling. Jeep models began to be sold in Chrysler showrooms rather than in their separate dealerships. Tensions escalated between Chrysler, Jeep's owner, and Daimler, Chrysler's owner. And as other manufacturers got into SUVs, global sales of Jeep decreased. The Jeep Liberty, a small modern sport utility vehicle, debuted in 2002 but failed to captivate like the Cherokee. Sales continued to suffer and rumors of Chrysler's sale by Daimler were persistent despite official denials. At that time, Jeep needed to renew and expand its range to remain competitive against competition that offered a much wider variety of vehicles. In 2000, a Jeep was limited to 3 models: Cherokee, Grand Cherokee, and Wrangler. To meet the diverse needs of a global market, the brand gradually rebuilds its range year after year, despite setbacks. Until 2008, the company offered its widest range of 7 models. However, the 2008 economic crisis affected the business. With the global recession starting in the United States, few customers can afford big Jeeps. The struggle intensifies in 2009 when the Chrysler Group seeks bankruptcy protection from the United States government. During this time, Jeep makes minor enhancements to current models like the Patriot and Compass. Until the day when Fiat announces its intention to buy Chrysler to create the global giant Fiat Chrysler Automobiles Group in 2014, which will become Stellantis 7 years later. After the merger with Peugeot Société Anonyme, Fiat aims to grow the brand in Europe and China while leveraging its technology and platforms to make Jeeps more fuel efficient and suitable for the global market. At the time, nothing was more different on the car market than a Jeep and a Fiat. The 2010 Chrysler-Fiat merger rocked Jeep's foundations and spawned the Renegade, sharing its base with the Fiat 132 gallons released 2 years prior. Purists argued that this model didn't deserve the Jeep emblem as it was far from being a real Jeep. Despite the criticisms, the Renegade played a crucial role in the brand's commercial growth. With nearly 160,000 models sold in its first year, accounting for more than 13% of Jeep's total sales. To please its loyal fans, the brand launched the Gladiator in 2018. A purebred American perfectly faithful to its DNA, the Renegade is popular in France and Europe, while the Grand Cherokee, Wrangler, and Gladiator are favored in the United States. The introduction of the Grand Commander in 2018 and the Grand Wagoneer's 2021 return targeted the American market. And it worked perfectly. But 2 years ago, the brand introduced the Avenger, a pure Stellantis product based on their 100% electric platform. Who had the will to conquer Europe and establish Jeep as a reference player in the electric market? Since joining the Fiat Chrysler Automobiles Group, Jeep has quadrupled its sales in a decade. However, the Avenger, sharing its technical base with the DS3 Crossback and Opel Mokka, fails to deliver expected results, tarnishing Jeep's unique image built since its founding. Jeep had envisioned providing a full zero-emission lineup in Europe by 2030, aspiring to become the worldwide leader in the electric sport utility vehicle market. With a projection of 50% of its annual sales in the United States made by electric. The manufacturer announced 4 new models, including the fully electric Wagoneer S, scheduled for 2024. The problem is they messed up the projections. In the United States, the electric vehicle market is not growing as quickly as anticipated, leading to weaker demand. Jeep is alarmed by this trend. Antonio Filosa, the brand's boss, admitted to Automotive News that new models might eventually feature combustion engines, similar to the new Dodge Charger, which was intended to be fully electric but will also have a combustion version. For Jeep and classic car fans, Jeep's abandonment of the all-electric strategy is good news, which would allow it to retain its DNA, but no one knows if it's final and how long it will last. If the boss discusses it publicly, the option is being seriously considered. The brand seems to be facing Buridan's donkey paradox, which perfectly illustrates the danger. What does the lack of a clear decision represent? It's the story of a donkey that is very hungry and very thirsty. It is placed exactly at equal distance from a pile of hay and a bucket of water. Since they are both at the same distance, the donkey can't make a choice and remains immobile because it is unable to make a decision and ends up dying of hunger. The moral is that making a decision and taking action is crucial to avoid stagnation, since you are doomed to die if you remain immobile. And this is even more true in the automotive industry. Tell me in the comments what you think of Jeep and how you see its strategy evolving. I hope you liked the video. Classic car fans, treat yourself and support the channel by going to discover the collection of posters that I have drawn to pay tribute to the greatest icons of the automobile. On appeldifar.com, get 10% off your first order directly on the site, so treat yourself. Also, all posters are limited edition, so it's first come, first served. The channel's growing enthusiast base is fantastic. Thank you for your support. See you next time.